All right, so today we're going to be talking about building a blueprint, but not for a house, for your life. We're talking about a life where you're the one in the driver's seat, making conscious choices instead of just, going through the motions. Let's dive into how we can switch off that autopilot and start building a more intentional, engaged life.
So, let me ask you something. Think about your days so far. Your commute to work, grabbing that morning coffee, scrolling through your phone. How much of that did you actually feel? Or was it kind of a blur? It is so easy to fall into these routines where we're just reacting to things all day instead of actually acting, just watching our lives happen instead of really living them.
So what's the alternative to living on autopilot? Well, it's what some people call an engaged life. And look, this isn't about being busy 24/7. It's about being present. It's about actively taking part in your own life and making darn sure that what you do is a direct reflection of what you truly care about. Basically, it's the difference between just drifting along wherever the current takes you and actually steering your own ship. Okay, so where do we even begin with all this? Well, like any solid construction project, you have to start with a blueprint. This first step is all about getting super clear on what actually matters to you. This is the plan that's going to guide every single decision you make from here on out. And what's really interesting is that everyone seems to agree on this one point. The absolute foundation, the bedrock of it all, is knowing your core values. I'm talking about your non-negotiables, the people, the behaviors, the principles that define who you really want to be. You can think of them as your personal North Star, always there to guide you when you feel a little lost.
And this brings us to a choice that we're all making every single day, whether we realize it or not. Every single action you take is either a toward move or an away move. Is spending an hour at the gym moving you toward your value of health, or is scrolling endlessly through social media moving you away from your value of real connection? Just starting to notice these moves is the first huge step in consciously choosing which direction you want to head in.
A blueprint is just a piece of paper if you don't actually build anything. So for our next step, we're laying the foundation. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we take those values we talked about from just being ideas in our head to being real, tangible actions out in the world.
And here's the bottom line, right? An engaged life is not a spectator sport. It means you have to get in the game. It means taking real, committed action, even, and I'd say especially, when it feels uncomfortable or a little scary. It's all about building that courage by taking that step right outside your comfort zone.
Now, one of the absolute best forms of engagement is something psychologists call a flow state. You know that feeling, right, where time just seems to disappear because you're so completely absorbed in what you're doing? It's incredibly powerful because it actually quiets down that self-critical voice in your head. And it's not magic. There's a formula to it. It all starts with finding a challenge that stretches your skills but doesn't totally overwhelm you. Then you get rid of all the distractions so you can just dive in completely. Okay, that all sounds fantastic for a fun, exciting project. But what about the laundry? Or the spreadsheets? What about all those repetitive tasks that make up, let's be honest, a huge chunk of our lives? How are you supposed to find engagement when you're just plain bored out of your mind? Well, the good news is you can actually transform those mundane tasks by turning them into a game. Seriously, set a timer and try to beat your own record for folding the laundry. Create a little mini goal for clearing out your inbox. Or you could just focus on how satisfying it'll feel to get it done. By bringing just a little bit of intention and creativity, even the most boring chores can become a chance to be present.
Engagement isn't just some internal job you do all by yourself. It actually radiates outward. So in this next part, we're going to zoom out a little and focus on our connections with the people and the world all around us.
Okay, this one is a really big deal. Across the board, pretty much every study shows that the quality of our relationships is a huge cornerstone of a happy, satisfying life. And that means we have to invest real energy here. Putting the phone away when you're with someone, actually practicing active listening, and just showing up for people with your full, undivided attention.
And hey, if you need a little more proof of just how powerful this all is, get this. In a massive study of 13,000 people, they found that engagement wasn't just a factor in life satisfaction. It was the #1 predictor. More than anything else, just actively participating in your own life is what leads to that feeling of fulfillment.
And ultimately, engagement finds its deepest, most profound meaning when it's tied to a sense of purpose. This is all about looking beyond ourselves, volunteering, helping a neighbor, mentoring someone, or working for a cause you really believe in. Contributing to something bigger than you gives you this incredible, lasting sense of fulfillment.
All right, we've drawn the blueprint, we've laid the foundation. Now it's time for the final phase, the daily practice.
This is all about the small, consistent habits that are going to maintain and strengthen an engaged life for the long haul.
Look, you do not need to go on a week-long silent retreat to be mindful. You can weave it right into the fabric of your day. Try turning your morning shower into a moment where you just notice the sensations, or take a walk and simply notice 3 things you're grateful for. These tiny little shifts in where you put your attention can have a huge, huge impact.
And we just can't forget about the bedrock of this whole thing. It is so hard to be present and connected and purposeful when you're just exhausted and running on fumes. Good sleep, nourishing food, and regular movement, these aren't luxuries. They are the essential fuel you need for the mental clarity and energy to actually live an engaged life.
I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, and he noticed that the one thing that allowed people to endure unbelievable hardship was having a sense of purpose. It's just a profound reminder that our internal world, our sense of meaning, is often way more powerful than our external circumstances.
So, as we wrap up here, let's bring it all back to one single actionable step. This isn't about completely overhauling your entire life overnight. It's about one moment, one decision. So what is one conscious choice you will make today to move toward the life you truly want to live?